Admiral Zexthal stood on the bridge of his massive warship, the Dominion Spear. The ship was 2 kilometers long and filled with enough weapons to destroy entire planets. He had been in command of the 7th Fleet for 15 years, and in all that time, he had never lost a single battle. The Krex Empire had conquered 43 different alien species, and Zexthal had personally led the attacks on 12 of them. Today would be lucky. Number 13. His officers moved around the bridge with the confidence that came from centuries of easy victories. The Krex were tall, gray-skinned beings with 4 arms and eyes that could see in multiple spectrums of light. Their technology was the most advanced in the known galaxy. Their ships had energy shields that could stop any weapon. Their plasma cannons could melt through any armor. Their reputation alone was enough to make most species surrender before the first shot was fired. Admiral called out his tactical. Officer, Commander Vextar, we are approaching the human colony world. The planet is called New Haven, according to our intelligence reports. Zexthal looked at the display screen showing the approaching world. It was a pleasant blue and green planet, much like the other colony worlds they had conquered. The humans had been living there for about 50 years, building cities and farms like any other primitive species that had just learned to travel between stars. What do our scans tell us about their defenses? Zexthal asked. Vextar checked his instruments. Very basic, Admiral. They have some orbital platforms around their planet, but they appear to be simple metal structures with chemical-based weapons. No energy shields detected. No plasma technology. Their ships are slow and appear to be powered by nuclear fusion, which is at least 300 years behind our technology. Another officer, Lieutenant Kextal, looked up from his station. Admiral, we have intercepted some of their communications. They use very simple radio waves and basic encryption. Our computers broke their codes in less than 10 minutes. They seem to be discussing evacuation procedures and calling for help from something called Earth Command. Zexthal made a sound. That was the Krex equivalent of laughter. Earth Command? Let them call whoever they want. By the time any help arrives, this world will be part of the Krex Empire. The Admiral walked to the front of the bridge and looked out at the 200 ships under his command. Each ship was a kilometer or more in length. Each one carried enough firepower to level cities. The sight never failed to fill him with pride and confidence. The 7th Fleet had never encountered an enemy that could stand against them for more than a few hours. Open a channel to the human colony, Zexthal ordered. Channel open, Admiral, reported the communications officer. Zexthal stood straight and began the same speech he had given to dozens of other worlds. Attention, humans of New Haven. I am Admiral Zexthal of the Krex 7th Fleet. You are now in the presence of the most powerful military force in this galaxy. The Krex Empire has conquered 43 species across 17 star systems. We have never been defeated in battle. He paused for effect, knowing that these words usually caused panic among the species they encountered. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. All military forces must power down their weapons and prepare for occupation. Any resistance will be met with complete destruction. Your choice is simple. Surrender now and live as subjects of the Empire, or resist and face annihilation. The channel closed, and Zexthal turned to his officers. How long do you think they will take to surrender? I estimate 30 minutes. These young species always try to be brave at first, but they quickly realize the hopelessness of their situation. On the surface of New Haven, Colonel Jake Morrison sat in the Planetary Defense Command Center, listening to the alien message with a calm expression that surprised his staff. Morrison was a 45-year-old veteran who had served in 3 different conflicts before being assigned to this quiet colony world. He had short brown hair, steady blue eyes, and the kind of calm demeanor that made soldiers trust him even in the worst situations. Well, that was interesting, Morrison said, turning to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Amy Brooks. Brooks was a young officer, only 28 years old, but she had graduated at the top of her class from the military academy on Earth. She had blonde hair tied back in a regulation bun and green eyes that missed nothing. "Sir," Brooks said, checking her computer screens, "our long-range sensors confirm what the alien said. There are 200 ships up there, and they are big. Each one is at least 10 times larger than our biggest orbital platform. And their weapons?" Morrison asked. Captain Rick Davis, the defense coordinator, looked up from his station. Davis was a 35-year-old engineer who had designed most of New Haven's defense systems. He had red hair and freckles that made him look younger than his years, but his mind was sharp and creative. "From what our sensors can detect, they have energy-based weapons that are far more advanced than anything we have. Their ships also appear to have some kind of energy shielding that our current weapons probably cannot penetrate." Morrison nodded slowly. "And how many civilians do we have on this planet?" 2.3 million, sir," Brooks answered. "Most are in the major cities, but we have farms and small towns scattered across 3 continents. Time to evacuate everyone?" Morrison asked. Davis shook his head. "Not possible, sir. Even if we had enough ships, which we don't, it would take weeks to move that many people. And I don't think our alien friends up there are going to give us weeks." Morrison walked over to the main communication console and activated a secure channel that connected directly to Earth Command over 300 light-years away. The message would take several hours to reach Earth, but Morrison knew it was important to follow proper procedure. "Earth Command, this is New Haven Defense. Command, we have made contact with a hostile alien species calling themselves the Krex Empire. They have demanded our surrender and given us 1 hour to comply. Request immediate assistance. Estimated enemy strength, 200 capital ships with advanced energy weapons and shielding. Current situation, stable. Morrison out." Brooks looked at her commander with surprise. "Sir, did you just tell Earth Command that our situation is stable?" "We have 200 alien warships threatening to destroy our planet." Morrison smiled slightly. "Lieutenant, situation stable is a very specific term in our military code. It means that while we are facing a serious threat, we are not panicking, and we are prepared to handle the situation according to established protocols. It also means that we expect to be here when help arrives." "And what protocols are those, sir?" Davis asked. Morrison walked over to a locked cabinet and entered a code that opened it. Inside was a red folder marked with warnings in several languages. "Protocol 7, he said simply. "The last resort defense plan for colony worlds facing overwhelming odds." Brooks had heard rumors about Protocol 7 during her training, but she had never seen the actual documents. "Sir, what exactly is Protocol 7? "Protocol 7 is based on a simple idea, Lieutenant. Earth has been preparing for this day. For decades, we knew that eventually we would encounter a hostile alien species with better technology than ours. Protocol 7 assumes that we cannot win a traditional battle, so we don't try to fight one." Morrison opened the folder and began reading the first page. "Instead, we fight the kind of war that humans have always been good at. We adapt, we learn, and we make the enemy pay for every inch of ground. We turn their advantages into disadvantages. We study them while they try to conquer us. And most importantly, we make sure that by the time they defeat us, they understand that attacking humans is the most expensive mistake they will ever make." Davis looked confused. "But sir, how can we fight ships that advanced with our limited technology?" Morrison closed the folder and looked at his officers. "Captain, what is the most dangerous animal on Earth?" "Humans, sir." "Exactly. And do you know why humans became the most dangerous animal on Earth? Despite not being the strongest, fastest, or having the best natural weapons. Brooks thought for a moment. Because we learn and adapt faster than any other species? That's part of it, but the real reason is simpler than that. Humans never give up. Every other animal on Earth has a point where they accept defeat and run away or surrender. Humans keep fighting even when logic says they should quit. We find ways to win fights that we should lose. And we get better at fighting every time someone tries to kill us. Morrison activated the base-wide communication system. All personnel. This is Colonel Morrison. We are about to implement Protocol 7. All civilian evacuation procedures are now in effect. But remember that our evacuation sites are not what they appear to be. All military personnel report to your designated positions. This is not a drill, and this is not a surrender. We are about to show our new alien friends what happens when someone threatens human civilians. High above New Haven, Admiral Zexthel. Check the time. The humans had been given 1 hour to surrender, and 55 minutes had passed. Any response from the planet? He asked. No surrender signal, Admiral, reported the communications officer. However, we are detecting increased activity on the surface. It appears they are moving civilians to designated areas, probably preparing for our occupation. Zexthel nodded. As expected. The attack began exactly 1 hour after Admiral Zexthel's ultimatum expired. The morning sun was rising over New Haven's largest city when the first Krex plasma beams lit up the sky. Zexthel had ordered a demonstration of power that would terrify the humans into immediate surrender. 12 of his largest ships opened fire on what appeared to be the humans' most important orbital defense platforms. The Admiral expected to see the platforms explode in brilliant flashes of light. Instead, something happened that had never occurred in 3 centuries of Krex warfare. The orbital platforms fired back. What is that? Commander Vextar shouted, staring at his display screen in confusion. Streaks of light shot up from the human platforms, but they were not energy beams. They were solid objects moving at incredible speed. The Krex sensors barely had time to detect them before they slammed into 3 Krex destroyers. Impossible, Zexthel whispered. The human weapons had punched straight through the energy shields. That had protected Krex ships for centuries. The 3 destroyers were not destroyed, but they were badly damaged, with huge holes torn through their hulls. Admiral, Lieutenant Kexdal called out, his voice shaking. The humans are using kinetic weapons. They are firing solid metal rods at extremely high velocity. Our shields cannot stop them, because they are not energy-based. Zexthel stared at a tactical display. In 300 years of conquest, no enemy had ever damaged a Krex ship in the first exchange of fire. How is this possible? Our intelligence reports said they only had primitive chemical weapons. Sir, it appears their chemical weapons are more advanced than we understood. They are using some kind of electromagnetic acceleration system to fire. Tungsten rods at nearly 20% of light speed. On the surface of New Haven, Colonel Morrison watched the orbital battle from his command center with grim satisfaction. First blood to us, he said quietly. Captain Davis, how are our platforms holding up? Davis checked his screens. We lost Platform 7 to direct plasma hit, but the others are still operational. The Krex weapons are powerful, but our platforms were built to take punishment. We also have 37 platforms that their sensors haven't detected yet. Lieutenant Brooks looked up from her station. Sir, the Krex are launching what appear to be dropships. Estimated 40 vessels heading for the surface. Each one looks big enough to carry about 200 troops. Morrison nodded. Time to show them what Protocol 7 really means. Signal all evacuation sites. Operation begins now. Across New Haven, something remarkable began to happen. The civilian evacuation sites that had looked like refugee camps were rapidly transforming into military positions. Hidden weapons emerged from concealed bunkers. Innocent-looking buildings revealed themselves to be armored strongpoints. Streets that had appeared normal were suddenly blocked by barriers that rose from underground. Captain Lisa Parker crouched behind one of these barriers in the city's main commercial district. Parker was a 32-year-old infantry officer with black hair and brown eyes. She had served in urban combat zones on 3 different worlds before being assigned to New Haven. Around her, 40 soldiers waited in positions that had been prepared years before, but disguised as ordinary city infrastructure. "Remember," Parker said into her radio, "let them land. Let them think they are in control. When they reach the kill zone markers, we show them what human urban warfare looks like." The first Krex dropship landed in what appeared to be an open park in the center of the city. The ship was large and angular, designed to carry troops quickly from orbit to surface. 200 Krex soldiers emerged, each one wearing advanced armor and carrying energy weapons that could melt through steel. The Krex had studied the tactics used by the species they had conquered. They expected either immediate surrender or panicked resistance that could be quickly crushed. They deployed in the standard formation that had worked on 43 different worlds. They had never encountered humans before. Staff Sergeant Tony Garcia watched the aliens through his scope from a building 3 blocks away. Garcia was a combat engineer, 29 years old with short black hair and steady hands. He had spent the last 3 weeks preparing surprises for exactly this moment. "Beautiful," Garcia whispered to his spotter. "They are walking right into the funnel." The Krex advance formation moved down the main street, confident in their superior technology and armor. They had no way of knowing that every building around them contained human soldiers, or that the street itself was designed to become a death trap. When the alien formation reached the center of the kill zone, Garcia pressed a button on his remote. Control. The street exploded, but not from above or below. The explosions came from the sides, bringing down the fronts of buildings in a carefully planned avalanche that trapped the Krex formation in a narrow canyon of rubble. The aliens found themselves surrounded by humans firing from elevated positions that had been prepared months in advance. "What is this?" the Krex commander shouted into his radio. "We are under attack from prepared positions. The humans were ready for us." The Krex energy weapons were powerful, but they had been designed for fighting in open space or on empty planets. In the narrow confines of an urban battlefield, with humans firing from cover and moving through tunnels that connected every building, the alien advantages meant much less. Garcia and his team demonstrated the first rule of human warfare: adapt faster than your enemy. Within 2 hours of the landing, they had captured several Krex energy weapons and were studying them. Garcia's engineering background allowed him to understand the basic principles quickly. "Look at this," Garcia said to his team, holding a captured alien rifle. "The power source is more advanced than ours, but the targeting system is designed for long-range combat in open areas. In close quarters, our old-fashioned chemical weapons actually fire faster and are more accurate." Meanwhile, in orbit, Admiral Zextil was receiving reports that made no sense. "What do you mean? Our ground forces are pinned down." "They have the best armor and weapons in the galaxy." "Sir?" Commander Vextar replied, reading from his communication screen. "Our troops report that the humans have turned their entire city into a fortress. Every street is a trap. Every building is a weapon. Our soldiers cannot advance because they are being attacked from directions it should be impossible." Zexthil felt something he had never experienced before: doubt. "Order the 15th Squadron to provide air support. Destroy the buildings that are giving the humans cover." "Sir, our ground commander reports that the humans are using our own troops as shields. They are fighting so close to our soldiers that we cannot use our ship weapons without killing our own forces." On the surface, Captain Parker was proving why humans had become the dominant species on Earth. Her unit was not just fighting the Kreks. They were learning from every exchange of fire. When a Krek soldier used his energy weapon in a new way, Parker's troops immediately developed a counter-tactic. When the aliens tried a different formation, the humans adapted their positions. "Parker to base," she said into her radio. "We have captured 12 alien soldiers and several of their weapons, requesting immediate pickup for technical analysis." "Copy." "That, Parker. Transport en route. How are casualties?" Parker looked around at her troops. They had lost 8 soldiers, but the survivors were not demoralized. Instead, they seemed angry and more focused than before. "We lost good people, but the team is solid. Each loss is teaching us something new about how these aliens fight. We are getting better at killing them faster than they are getting better at killing us." This was the fundamental difference that Admiral Zexthel was beginning to understand. When Krek soldiers died, their comrades became afraid and less effective. When human soldiers died, their comrades became more dangerous. Back in the command center, Colonel Morrison was coordinating the battle with a calmness that impressed his officers. Lieutenant Brooks had never seen anyone command a defensive action against impossible odds with such confidence. "Sir," Brooks said, "we are receiving reports from all sectors. The Krek's ground forces are not advancing as quickly as they expected. Our people are holding the defensive lines and actually pushing back in some areas." Morrison studied the tactical displays. "Good, but this is just the beginning. The real test comes when they realize that they are not fighting primitives and start using their full capabilities. Captain Davis, what is the status of our hidden assets?" Davis smiled. "All 37 concealed orbital platforms are ready. The Kreks still don't know they exist. Our deep space sensors show no additional enemy fleets approaching yet, so we have time to show them more surprises." "And our special project?" Morrison asked. "Staff Sergeant Garcia's team has successfully captured and analyzed several alien weapons. Dr. Helen Turner's science team reports they understand the basic principles and are already working on improvements." Morrison nodded. This was Protocol 7 in action. Not just fighting the enemy, but learning from them, adapting to them, and finding ways to turn their own advantages against them. The Kreks expected a quick victory against primitives. Instead, they were getting an education in human warfare. In orbit, Admiral Zexthel was beginning to realize that he had made a terrible mistake. For the first time in his career, he was fighting an enemy that got stronger. By the 3rd day of battle, Admiral Zexthel knew he was facing something that had never existed in Krek's military history, a prolonged fight. Every conquest in the past 3 centuries had ended within hours. Planets either surrendered immediately or were quickly crushed by overwhelming force. New Haven was different. The humans were not only still fighting, they were getting better at it. "Admiral," Commander Vextar said, approaching with reports that grew worse each day. "Ground forces report the human resistance has actually increased since yesterday. They are using our own weapons against us now, and somehow making them more effective than our own troops can." Zexthel stared at the tactical display showing New Haven's surface. Red dots marked Krek's positions, but they were not advancing. In some areas, they were actually retreating. How is this possible? "We have superior numbers, superior technology, and superior training. Sir, the humans appear to learn faster than any species we have encountered. Every tactic we use, they develop a counter-tactic within hours. Every weapon we deploy, they capture and improve. Our psychological warfare specialists report that human morale actually increases when they take casualties." Before Zexthel could respond, his communications officer called out urgently, "Admiral, we have a new contact dropping out of hyperspace. Single ship human design. On the main screen, a vessel appeared that was unlike anything in the Krex database. It was smaller than even their smallest warship, maybe 400 meters. Long, with an unusual design that seemed to ignore basic principles of spacecraft engineering. "Open communications," Zextil ordered. Perhaps this was finally the human surrender delegation. The response came immediately, but it was not what the Admiral expected. A human voice, calm and professional, filled the bridge of the Dominion. "Spear, Admiral Zextil, this is Captain Ben Clark of the United Earthship Relentless. You have initiated hostilities against human civilians. Please prepare to receive our formal response." Zextil felt confused. The human ship was tiny compared to his fleet. One small vessel against 200 Krex capital ships should not be. Making threats. "Human captain, you are outnumbered 200 to 1. Surrender now, and we will show mercy." "Admiral," Captain Clark replied, "you seem to misunderstand the situation. We are not here to surrender. We are here to demonstrate why attacking human civilians is considered a very poor decision in this galaxy." The communication ended, and the human ship began to move in ways that violated everything Zextil knew about space combat. Instead of taking a position for traditional battle line engagement, the small vessel began darting between Krex ships like an insect avoiding swatters. "Sir," the tactical officer called out, "the human ship is deploying some kind of weapons, but they are not targeting our vessels directly." "What are they targeting?" Zextil demanded. "Nothing, sir. They appear to be dropping small objects in space around our fleet." Lieutenant Commander Kate Lopez sat at the tactical station aboard the UE's Relentless, watching her displays with the focused attention of someone who had trained for this moment her entire career. Lopez was 31 years old, with short brown hair and sharp green eyes that missed no detail. She had been the top graduate of Earth's Advanced Naval Warfare School. "Deployment complete, Captain," Lopez reported to Captain Clark. "All packages are in position and ready for activation." Captain Clark was a 40-year-old veteran who had served on the frontier for 15 years, waiting for the day when humanity would need to prove itself against advanced alien threats. He had gray hair and the kind of steady demeanor that made his crew trust him completely. "Activate Phase 1, Clark ordered. What happened next would be studied in Krex military academies for generations, assuming the Krex Empire survived long. Enough to have military academies. The small objects that the Relentless had deployed suddenly came to life. They were not mines in any traditional sense. They were something entirely new, self-replicating, nanoscale disruptors that used the target's own technology against them. Within minutes, Krex ships throughout the fleet began experiencing system failures, not from direct attack, but from their own computers turning against them. The nanodisruptors had infiltrated the Krex network systems and were learning how to sabotage them from the inside. "Admiral," Commander Vextar shouted, "all ships are reporting critical system malfunctions. Our computers are being attacked by some kind of intelligent virus that learns and adapts faster than our security systems can stop it." Zextil watched in horror as his invincible fleet began to tear itself apart. Ships were firing on each other due to targeting system failures. Others were going dead in space as their engines shut down. The most advanced technology in the galaxy was being defeated by something microscopic. On New Haven's surface, the battle had taken an even stranger turn. Major Chris Johnson led a special operations team through the underground tunnels that connected every major building in the human cities. Johnson was a 34-year-old Special Forces officer with black hair and brown eyes, who had specialized in guerrilla warfare on hostile worlds. But Johnson was not just fighting the Krex. Occupation forces. He was hunting them. "Target acquired," Johnson whispered into his radio, watching a Krex patrol through his scope. His team had been tracking this particular group for 6 hours, learning their patterns, understanding their tactics, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The attack came from everywhere at once. Krek soldiers found themselves surrounded by humans who seemed to appear from solid walls, attack with captured alien weapons that had been modified beyond recognition, and then disappear back into tunnels that should not exist. But the most disturbing part was what happened to the Krek soldiers who were captured alive. Commander Ryan Mitchell ran the human intelligence operation from a facility that had once been a shopping mall. Mitchell was 36 years old with red hair and green eyes, and he had a gift for understanding how alien minds worked. His team had been studying captured Krek soldiers for 3 days, and what they had learned was changing everything. Colonel Morrison, Mitchell said over the secure communication link, we have completed our analysis of Krek psychology and biology. You need to hear this. Morrison's voice came back immediately. Go ahead, Commander. Sir, the Kreks have never fought. A war of attrition. Their entire military doctrine is based on quick, decisive victories. They have no training for extended combat, no experience with adaptive enemies, and no psychological preparation for facing an opponent that gets stronger under pressure. What does that mean for us? Mitchell looked at his data screens, showing the results of days of research. It means they are already starting to break down mentally. Each day this battle continues, they become less effective while we become more effective. Their own success has made them weak. And their technology? That's the interesting part, sir. Their technology is more advanced than ours, but it's designed by a species that has never faced real opposition. Dr. Helen Turner's team has been reverse engineering their equipment, and we think we understand it better than they do. Dr. Turner was a 42-year-old scientist with blonde hair and blue eyes who had spent her career studying alien technology from crashed ships and abandoned equipment found on distant worlds. She had always hoped for a chance to study functioning alien technology, and the Krek's invasion had given her that opportunity. The Krek's weapons are incredibly sophisticated, Turner explained to Morrison over the communication link, but they are also incredibly specialized. They were designed to fight specific types of enemies in specific types of situations. When we change the situation, their advantages disappear. Give me an example, Morrison requested. Their energy shields can stop plasma weapons and particle beams, but they cannot stop kinetic weapons or our new adaptive nano-disruptors. Their plasma weapons can melt through any known armor, but they overheat quickly in extended firefights. Their ships are heavily armed, but poorly defended against attacks from multiple directions simultaneously. On the surface, Captain Lisa Parker was demonstrating exactly what Dr. Turner meant. Her infantry unit had not only held their defensive positions for 3 days, they had actually expanded their territory. Parker had learned to use captured Krek's equipment in ways that the aliens had never considered. Watch this, Parker said to her sergeant, aiming a modified Krek's energy rifle at an alien strongpoint. The weapon had been designed for long range precision shooting, but Parker's engineers had modified it for rapid-fire urban combat. The result was devastating. The Krek's position was destroyed in seconds by weapons that were originally Krek's technology, used in ways that Krek's engineers had never imagined. Staff Sergeant Tony Garcia had become something like a legend among the Hmong human forces. His engineering team had not only reverse-engineered every piece of Krek's equipment they could find, they had improved it. Garcia's workshop looked like something from a science fiction movie, with alien technology mixed with human innovations. The problem with the Kreks, Garcia explained to his team, is that they think too much inside the box. They build a weapon to do one thing perfectly, but we build weapons to do whatever we need them to do. He held up a device that had started as a Krek's communication system, but was now something entirely different. By the second week of fighting, Admiral Zextil had called for something that had never happened in Krek's history: reinforcements to conquer a single planet. The arrival of the 2nd and 9th fleets brought his total force to 600 ships, the largest military operation that Krek's empire had ever assembled. "Surely," Zexthel said to his assembled fleet commanders on the bridge of the Dominion Spear, 600 ships can defeat one human colony world. Admiral Kexmorth of the 2nd Fleet was an older Krex officer who had conquered more worlds than anyone else in the Empire. He studied the tactical reports with growing concern. "Zexthel, these humans are not fighting like any species we have encountered. According to your reports, they are using our own technology better than we use it ourselves." "That is correct," Zexthel admitted reluctantly. "But with 600 ships, we can overwhelm them through sheer numbers." Admiral Texvar of the 9th Fleet was younger, but equally experienced. She had read every report from the battle and reached a conclusion that terrified her. "Commanders, I have studied the data from the past 2 weeks. The humans are not just defending their world. They are studying us. Every day, they understand our technology better. Every battle, they predict our moves more accurately. I believe they are using this entire conflict as a learning experience." The human response to the Krek's reinforcements proved Admiral Texvar correct. Instead of trying to match the alien numbers, Earth Command sent specialists. The U.E.'s Retribution dropped out of hyperspace, carrying exactly the kind of person the situation required. Dr. Helen Turner had spent 2 weeks analyzing captured Kreks. Technology. But now she had something even more valuable: living Kreks prisoners who could answer questions. Turner was a brilliant scientist, but she was also something the Kreks had never encountered: a human researcher who treated war as a scientific experiment. She had set up a laboratory in one of New Haven's underground facilities where she could study Kreks biology, psychology, and technology simultaneously. "Colonel Morrison," Turner reported over the secure communication channel, "I have made a discovery. That changes everything. The Kreks have a fundamental weakness that they do not even know exists." Morrison was in his command center, coordinating defensive operations across 3 continents while 600 alien ships tried to break through orbital defenses that seemed to get stronger every day. "What kind of weakness, Doctor?" "Psychological. Sir, the Kreks have never lost a battle in 300 years. Their entire military training, their command structure, their tactical thinking, everything is based on the assumption that they will win quickly and decisively. They have no experience with failure, no training for extended combat, and no mental preparation for facing an adaptive enemy." Turner looked at her research data showing brain scans of captured Krek soldiers. "Sir, they are starting to break down mentally. Each day this battle continues, they become less effective fighters. Meanwhile, our people are getting better at killing them." This was exactly what Commander Pete Sullivan was proving on a daily basis. Sullivan was a 33-year-old special operations officer with brown hair and gray eyes who had been trained for missions that were supposed to be impossible. His current mission was the most impossible yet: infiltrate Krek's command ships and plant monitoring devices without being detected. Sullivan floated in space between 2 massive Krek's vessels, wearing a stealth suit that made him nearly invisible to alien sensors. His team had developed the suit using captured Krek's technology combined with human engineering. The result was something that could fool the most advanced detection systems in the galaxy. "Target acquired," Sullivan whispered into his radio as he approached the hull of a Krek's heavy cruiser. Beginning infiltration. The Kreks had designed their ships to be impregnable fortresses. What they had not considered was an enemy who could study their security systems, understand their weaknesses, and find ways to turn their own defenses against them. Sullivan's infiltration was not about destroying the ship. It was about understanding it. Within 2 hours, he had planted dozens of microscopic monitoring devices throughout the vessel's computer systems. The humans were now listening to every Krex communication, tracking every ship movement, and predicting enemy actions before the Krex commanders made their decisions. Back on New Haven's surface, the expanded battle had taken on characteristics that defied everything the Krex understood about warfare. Captain Maria Santos commanded the defense of the planet's largest city, which had become something that should not have been possible, according to known engineering principles. Santos was a 35-year-old engineer-turned-soldier with black hair and brown eyes who had spent her career designing defensive systems for frontier worlds. But New Haven's defenses were beyond anything she had ever imagined. "How is this possible?" asked Lieutenant Jim Carter, a young officer who had arrived with the latest group of human reinforcements. Carter stared at tactical displays showing a city that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Santos smiled as she pointed to the three-dimensional hologram, showing New Haven's urban battlefield. "Lieutenant, what you are seeing is what happens when human engineers have 2 weeks to modify alien technology while under combat conditions. We have created a city that can be attacked from above, below, and from directions that should not exist." The city's buildings were connected by a network of tunnels, bridges, and transportation systems that had been built using captured Krex technology. But the humans had not just copied the alien systems. They had improved them, combining Krex engineering with human creativity to create something entirely new. "The Krex build things to be perfect for one specific purpose," Santos explained. "We build things to be adaptable. When they attack from above, we fight from below. When they attack from below, we fight from the sides. When they attack from the sides, we attack from directions they cannot even perceive." The result was a three-dimensional urban battlefield where Krex forces could be ambushed from any direction, including some directions that violated the aliens. Understanding of physics. Dr. Janet Miller arrived on the third human ship to reach New Haven, the U's determination. Miller was a 40-year-old strategic analyst with red hair and blue eyes who had spent her career studying military conflicts throughout human history. Her job was to understand why humans won wars they should have lost. "Colonel Morrison," Miller said after reviewing 2 weeks of battle data, "I need to show you something that will change how we approach this conflict." Morrison met with Miller in a secure conference room deep underground. "What have you found, Doctor?" Miller activated a holographic display showing the tactical situation from the Krex perspective. "Sir, we have been thinking about this battle wrong. We have been treating it as a defensive action against superior alien technology. But the data shows something different." "What do you mean?" "We are not losing this battle, Colonel. We are winning it. The Krex have thrown 600 ships at us, and they are no closer to victory than they were 2 weeks ago. Meanwhile, we understand their technology better than they do. We can predict their tactics better than their own computers, and we are using their own weapons against them more effectively than they can." Miller pointed to charts showing human and Krex effectiveness over time. "Look at these trends, sir. Every day, we get better at fighting them. Every day, they get worse at fighting us. This is not a battle anymore. This is an education." Morrison studied the data with growing amazement. "Are you saying we can actually defeat 600 alien warships with one planet's defenses?" "Sir, I am saying we already are defeating them. They just do not realize it yet." This became clear when Colonel Morrison implemented something he called Protocol 7 Escalation. He did not explain what it meant to his staff, but every human soldier seemed to understand immediately. The fighting intensified, but it was different now. The humans were not just defending New Haven anymore. They were actively hunting Krex forces, studying them, learning everything about their technology, tactics, and psychology. Staff, Sergeant Tony Garcia's engineering teams had become something like alien technology wizards. They could take any piece of Krex equipment and within hours turn it into something that worked better than the original design. "Look at this," Garcia said to his team, holding up what had once been a Krex energy weapon. "They designed this too. Fire plasma bolts at long range with perfect accuracy. But watch what happens when we modify the power coupling and change the focusing crystal." The modified weapon fired a continuous beam that could cut through Krex armor like paper. It also fired faster, used less energy, and was more accurate than the original design. "The problem with the Krex," Garcia explained, "is that they think. Perfection means doing one thing exactly right. But perfection really means being able to do whatever the situation requires." Admiral Zextel received reports that grew more terrifying each day. His ground forces were not just pinned down anymore. They were being systematically hunted by humans who seemed to understand Krex technology better than Krex engineers. "Sir," Commander Vextar said quietly, "our casualties are increasing while human casualties are decreasing. They are learning to fight us faster than we are learning to fight them." "That is impossible," Zextel replied. 3 weeks after the battle began, Admiral Zextel faced a truth that shattered everything he believed about warfare. His 600 ships controlled less territory than when they had started with 200. The humans had not only survived the largest military assault in Krex history, they had turned it into a training exercise. "Admiral," Commander Vextar said, his voice barely above a whisper, "we have lost more ships and troops in 3 weeks on this one planet than the entire Krex Empire has lost in the past century of conquest." Zextal stared at reports that made no sense. Human forces were now using Krex technology better than Krex engineers. They had reverse engineered not just the weapons, but the underlying science that made them work. Somehow, in 3 weeks, these primitive colonists had advanced their understanding of technology by centuries. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we are receiving a transmission from the human ship Relentless. Captain Clark is requesting a ceasefire for negotiations." Zextel felt a mixture of relief and confusion. Finally, the humans wanted to surrender, accept the transmission. Captain Clark's voice filled the bridge, calm and professional, as always. "Admiral Zextel, we request a temporary ceasefire to discuss terms." "Very well, human. We will accept your surrender and guarantee the safety of your civilian population if you comply with our occupation terms." There was a pause before responded, and when he did, his tone was different. "Admiral, I think you misunderstand the situation. We are not offering surrender. We are offering you the chance to end this conflict before it becomes more expensive for your empire than you can afford." Before Zextal could respond, another human ship dropped out of hyperspace. This one was larger than any human vessel the Krex had seen, and it carried identification signals that made the Admiral's blood run cold. Earth Command flagship. General Alex Turner stood on the bridge of the UES Sovereign, looking at displays showing the tactical situation around New Haven. Turner was a 50-year-old veteran with gray hair and steel blue eyes who commanded all human military forces in this sector of space. He had been watching the battle for 3 weeks, waiting for the right moment to make contact. "Captain Clark," Turner said over the communication channel, "request permission to join the negotiations." "Permission granted, General." "Admiral Zextel, I would like you to meet General Turner of Earth Command." Zextel felt confused. Earth Command was supposed to be hundreds of light years away. How had they arrived so quickly? "General Turner, you cannot possibly have brought enough ships to challenge 600 Krex vessels." Turner's laugh was not cruel, but it was confident. "Admiral, you are correct. I only brought 12 ships, but I did not come here to fight you. I came here to offer you something that no one has ever offered the Krex Empire before. What could you possibly offer us?" "A partnership," Turner replied simply. "An alliance based on mutual respect rather than conquest." The negotiations took place on neutral ground, New Haven's main spaceport, which had been rebuilt using a mixture of human and captured Krex technology. The result was a building that was more advanced than anything either species had created alone. Admiral Zex Thill arrived with a full honor guard, expecting to dictate terms to defeated primitives. Instead, he found himself facing humans who seemed completely at ease, as if they had not just spent 3 weeks fighting for their lives against impossible odds. Dr. Janet Miller presented the first part of what she called the New Haven analysis. Miller had spent 3 weeks studying everything about the Krex military, and her conclusions were devastating. "Admiral," Miller began, activating a holographic display, "we need to discuss what has actually happened here. Your empire attacked what you believed was a primitive human colony. Instead, you discovered that humanity has been preparing for this moment for decades." The display showed tactical analyses that made Zex Thill's head spin. Every Krex move had been predicted. Every Krex weapon had been analyzed and countered. Every Krex strategy had been studied and defeated. "You see, Admiral, Earth has been watching galactic civilization for a long time. We knew that eventually we would encounter a hostile species with technology more advanced than ours, so we prepared." Dr. Sam Edwards stepped forward with another presentation that would change everything. Edwards was a 45-year-old scientist with brown hair and green eyes who had spent his career studying alien technology from crashed ships and abandoned equipment found throughout human space. "Admiral Zex Thill," Edwards said, "we have learned more about Krex technology in 3 weeks than your own scientists had discovered in centuries. And we have learned something remarkable. Your technology and our creativity can create things that neither of our species could achieve alone." Edwards activated another display showing hybrid designs that combined Krex engineering with human innovation. The results were spectacular. Ships that could travel faster than anything in known space, weapons that were more powerful than anything ever built, and defensive systems that seemed to violate the laws of physics. "We are offering you a choice, Admiral. You can continue this war, which will eventually bankrupt your empire and cost thousands of lives. Or you can join us in building something greater than either of our species has ever imagined." Colonel Morrison entered the negotiations with a presentation that Admiral Zex Thill would never forget. Morrison had commanded the defense of New Haven for 3 weeks, and his calm confidence had never wavered. "Admiral," Morrison said, "I want to show you something that will explain why this battle ended the way it did." Morrison activated a display showing human military doctrine. It was unlike anything the Krex had ever seen. "Your empire fights wars to demonstrate superiority and achieve quick surrender. Humans fight wars to win, regardless of how long it takes or what we have to learn to do it." The display showed how every human defeat in history had led to innovation, adaptation, and eventual victory. "We do not just fight our enemies, Admiral. We study them, learn from them, and find ways to turn their own strengths against them. But the most important difference," Morrison continued, "is that humans get stronger when we are challenged. Every species you have conquered became weaker when faced with your superior technology. We became stronger." Captain Clark joined the presentation with data that proved Morrison's point. "Admiral, your own reports show that human effectiveness increased every day of this battle, while Krex effectiveness decreased. We were using your technology better than your own troops by the end of the first week." General Turner stepped forward with the final offer. "Admiral Zex Thill, the Krex Empire has never been defeated because you have never fought someone who refused to lose. But you have also never had the opportunity to learn from someone who approaches problems differently than you do." Turner activated a display showing what human Krex cooperation could accomplish. "Your technology is impressive, but it is limited by the fact that your species has never faced real challenges. Our creativity is powerful, but it is limited by our less advanced technology. Together, we could explore possibilities that neither species could reach alone. Admiral Zexthol studied the presentations in silence for several minutes. Everything he had believed about warfare, about the Krex Empire's superiority, about the nature of conquest itself, had been challenged by 3 weeks of fighting humans. "What exactly are you proposing?" he asked finally. Dr. Miller answered. "A joint research and development program. Krex technology combined with human innovation. Your engineering precision combined with our adaptability. Your advanced science combined with our ability to find new ways to use it. And in exchange?" General Turner smiled. "In exchange, the Krex Empire becomes part of something larger than conquest. You become partners in exploring the galaxy and solving problems that neither of our species could handle alone." Admiral Zexthol looked around the room at humans who had just spent 3 weeks proving that the galaxy's most invincible army was not invincible at all. But they were not gloating or demanding tribute. They were offering friendship. "What guarantee? Do I have that humanity will honor this partnership?" Zexthol asked. Colonel Morrison answered. "Admiral, we have spent 3 weeks showing you what humans do to enemies who threaten our civilians. Would you like to spend the next 3 weeks learning what humans do for friends who help us protect them?" The final agreement was signed in the same building where Admiral Zexthol had expected to accept human surrender. Instead, he found himself agreeing to the most unprecedented alliance in galactic history. 6 months later, New Haven had been rebuilt as a joint human Krex research facility. The same city that had been a battlefield now hosted scientists and engineers from both species working together on projects that amazed everyone involved. Admiral Zexthol, now Ambassador Zexthol, stood in the research center watching human and Krex engineers collaborate on a new type of spacecraft that combined the best of both technologies. The ship could travel faster than any Krex vessel and was more adaptable than any human design. "Ambassador," Dr. Turner said, approaching with the latest research reports, "our joint teams have made another breakthrough. We have developed a defensive system that appears to be completely impenetrable." Zexthol studied the reports with amazement.